Hello, fourth grade. Today we're going to learn how to divide two-digit numbers by one-digit numbers. So let's go over here to our objective and read it together. I will be able to divide two-digit numbers by one-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. So let's go over here and get started. So we're going to use the standard algorithm, and we're going to use an acronym to follow some steps to solve for our quotient, which is the answer to a division problem. So let's get started writing our acronym. Does McDonald's serve cheeseburgers raw? D stands for divide, M stands for multiply, S stands for subtract, C stands for check, B stands for bring down, and R stands for repeat. So I'm going to do a problem, you're going to watch me, and then I'll do a problem where we both work on it together. And then the last one, you're going to show me just how well you have learned from this lesson. So let's get started. Our first problem will be 24 divided by 2. So let's set that up. 24 divided by 2, here's our steps right over here. Our first one is to divide. We're going to divide the 2 into the 2. How many times does 2 go into 2 without going over? 1 time. After we divide, we are then going to multiply. We're going to multiply the 2 times the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. We're then going to subtract. 2 minus 2 is 0. After we subtract, we're then going to check. To check, it's really easy. We're just going to see if the number right here is lower than the divisor, which is the number outside of the house. So is 0 less than 2? Yes, it is. 0 is less than 2. So now after we check, that means that we can bring down. We're going to bring down the 4. After we bring down, we're then going to repeat, which means we go all the way back to the beginning. And the beginning is to divide all over again. So now let's divide 2 into 4. How many times does 2 go into 4 without going over? Well, if I don't know, I would count on my fingers by 2s until I hit 4. 2, 4. I have 2 fingers up. So I'm going to put that above the 4 because that's the number I was dealing with. After I divide, I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply 2 times 2. The 2 times the 2. And that is 4. After I multiply, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract 4 minus 4, which is 0. After I subtract, I'm going to check. And remember, that's really simple. We just have to see if the number we just subtracted is lower than the number outside of the house, which is also called the divisor. And 0 is less than 2, so that means we can now bring down. But there's nothing to bring down. So that must mean that my answer is 12. My quotient, which is the answer to a division problem, is 12. But to be sure, I need to check my work. And I can check my work by doing the inverse of division, which is multiplication. And I'm going to do that by taking my quotient of 12 and multiplying it by the divisor of 2. Okay, so let's solve that together. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. We got the same dividend right underneath there. So that must mean that 24 divided by 2 equals 12. We were correct. All right, now let's do a problem together. Let's do 42 divided by 2, okay? So here's our steps over here. Do it with me. Our first step is to divide. What are we dividing? If you said 4 divided by 2, you were correct. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. After we divide, we're going to multiply. What are we multiplying? 2 times 2, correct, which is 4. After we multiply, we're going to subtract. We're subtracting 4 minus 4, which is, if you said 0, you are correct. After we subtract, we're going to check. What are we checking? If 0 is less than 2. And is it? Yes, it is. So that means that we can now bring down. Now we're going to repeat, which means we go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, dividing. 2 goes into 2 how many times? Once, correct. After we divide, we're going to multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. After we multiply, we're going to subtract. 2 minus 2 is 0. What do we do after we subtract? Check. What are we checking? If 0 is less than 2, and it is, so now we can bring down. But is there anything to bring down? No, there's not. So that must mean that our answer, our quotient, is 21. But to be sure, we need to check it. If you said check it, correct. We're going to use the inverse of division, which is multiplication. I'm going to take my quotient of 21 and multiply it by my divisor of 2. Solve this with me. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. We had the same dividend, so our quotient of 21 is correct. So 42 divided by 2 is 21. This is your answer. Now, I want you to go over to this website, joincrs.com, and type in the code. Then I want you to take a couple of moments and answer the division problem on here, and then answer whatever quotient you get. Your question states, what is the quotient for the problem 48 divided by 2? Okay. Now that you've taken a couple of seconds to do that, let's work it out on our paper. Just erase some of this so that we can have some room to work. All right. Number 3. What was our problem? Oops. 48 divided by 2. Okay. Let's set it up. So our steps are right here. Let's do it. How many times does 2 go into 4? Goes in 2 times. Now, after we divide, our next step is to multiply. So we're going to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4. After we multiply, we're going to subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. After we subtract, we check. Is 0 less than 2? Yes, it is. So now I can bring down my 8. After I bring down, I'm going to repeat, which means I go all the way back to the beginning. My beginning is to divide. I'm going to divide 2 into 8 without going over. 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 4 fingers up, so 2 goes into 8 4 times. I'm going to put it above that 8 because that's the number I was working with. After dividing, I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply 2 times the 4, which is 8. After I multiply, I'm going to subtract. 8 minus 8 is 0. After I subtract, I'm now going to check. 0 is, in fact, less than 2, so I'm going to bring down, but I don't have anything to bring down. So my answer, my quotient, must be 24. But to be sure, I need to check it using the inverse of division, which is multiplication. I'm going to take my quotient of 24, I'm going to multiply it times my divisor of 2. So 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 2 is 4, and looks like we got the right answer. So if your work matches mine, then you got the right answer. Okay, let's go back and look at our objective one more time. Go ahead and read it along with me. I will be able to divide 2-digit numbers by 1-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. And guys, we did just that. We used standard algorithm. We used the strategy of does McDonald's serve cheeseburgers raw? And we followed the steps. We checked our work in both places, which if you double check your work, you're bound to get the right answer. So great job today. If you have any questions, I'll be available in the chat.